Have you ever touched something that cost more than your parents made in a decade? It's a terrifying feeling. You're afraid that if you breathe on it wrong, it might shatter. For 20-year-old Marcus, that object was a Steinway Model D concert grand piano sitting in the living room of the Thorne estate. Marcus wasn't a guest. He wasn't a friend of the family. He was the invisible help. He was the son of Sarah, the woman who had scrubbed the marble floors of this mansion for 6 years. Marcus knew the rules: do the work, keep your head down, and never, ever touch the owner's property. But on a rainy Tuesday in October, the owner, Mr. Julian Thorne, was supposed to be in Tokyo. The house was silent. The piano was calling him. Marcus sat down. He placed his trembling fingers on the ivory keys and began to play a melody he'd been writing in his head for 3 years. He was so lost in the music, he didn't hear the front door open. He didn't hear the heavy footsteps on the marble. When the music stopped, a voice boomed from the hallway. "I didn't hire you to play concerts, son." Marcus froze. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He turned around to see Julian Thorne, the billionaire tech mogul, staring at him with an unreadable expression. In that second, Marcus knew it was over. His mom would be fired. They would lose the apartment. But what happened in the next 5 minutes wouldn't just save his mother's job, it would launch a sequence of events leading to the main stage of the world's biggest music festival and a signature on a dotted line that most artists only dream of. This is the incredible story of how a sorry turned into a symphony. If you love stories about the underdog winning against all odds, please hit that like button right now. It helps us share this positivity with the world. And if you aren't part of our community yet, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. The gap between the rich and the poor isn't just about money, it's about access. Marcus lived in that gap. He was a bedroom producer. In the small 2-bedroom apartment he shared with his mother, Sarah, his studio consisted of a cracked laptop running a pirated version of FL Studio and a pair of headphones held together by duct tape. Sarah was the hero of this part of the story. She was a woman of immense dignity. She cleaned houses not because she lacked ambition, but because life had dealt her a heavy hand after Marcus's father passed away. She wanted Marcus to go to college, to get a safe job. "Music is a hobby, baby," she would say, rubbing her swollen ankles after a 10-hour shift. "Hobbies don't pay the rent." Marcus tried to listen. He was studying IT at the local community college. But his soul was made of rhythm. He heard hi-hats in the ticking of a clock, he heard bass lines in the rumble of the subway. When Sarah hurt her back in late September, Marcus stepped up. He took over her shifts at the Thorne estate to keep the income flowing while she recovered. The Thorne estate was a fortress of solitude. Julian Thorne, a man who had made his fortune in data aggregation and early angel investing, was a ghost in his own home. He was divorced, estranged from his children, and constantly traveling. For 3 weeks, Marcus cleaned. He dusted the library, he polished the banisters, and he vacuumed the rugs. And every day, he walked past the Steinway. It was a beast of an instrument. A $150,000 masterpiece. And it was collecting dust. To Marcus, a musician who had only ever played on cheap plastic MIDI controllers, it was a tragedy. That Tuesday, the rain was battering the glass walls of the living room. The acoustics in the high-ceilinged room were perfect. Marcus had finished the upstairs. He had 30 minutes before his shift ended. He looked at the piano. Just one chord, he told himself. He sat on the leather bench. It felt like a throne. He pressed a C major 7th chord. The sound wasn't just a noise, it was a physical sensation. The resonance vibrated through his fingertips and up his arms. He couldn't stop. He began playing Rainfall, a composition he'd been working on. It was a mix of classical progression with a neo-soul rhythm. He closed his eyes, swaying, adding a complex jazz run with his right hand. He played for 10 minutes straight. He poured his frustration, his fear for his mother's health, and his hunger for a better life into the keys. Then came the voice. "I didn't hire you to play concerts, son." Marcus jumped up so fast he knocked the bench over. It clattered loudly on the floor. Julian Thorne stood there, soaking wet, a garment bag over his shoulder. His flight to Tokyo had been cancelled due to the storm. "Mr. Thorne," Marcus stammered, his hands shaking. I am so sorry. I was just dusting, and I don't know what came over me. Please, I'll leave. Please don't tell the agency." Julian didn't move. He walked slowly into the room, his eyes fixed on the piano, then on Marcus. He looked at Marcus's cleaning uniform, then at his hands. "You realize that instrument is tuned to 440 Hz precision, right?" Julian asked, his voice flat. "Yes, sir. I didn't bang on it. I was gentle." "I know," Julian said. He dropped his bag. "Because I was standing in the doorway for the last 3 minutes listening to you." Marcus held his breath. "Who taught you that chord progression?" Julian asked. The bridge. The transition from the minor to the diminished? I taught myself, sir. Listening to records. Robert Glasper, Herbie Hancock. Julian walked over to the wet bar and poured a glass of water. I bought that piano 5 years ago thinking I would learn. I took 3 lessons and quit. It's been a piece of furniture ever since. You made it sound like it was alive. The tension in the room broke. Julian wasn't angry, he was fascinated. What's your name? Marcus. Marcus Williams. Sarah's son. Sit down, Marcus, Julian gestured to the couches. Let's talk. That conversation changed the dynamic. Julian Thorne wasn't just a rich suit, he was a man who appreciated excellence, and he was bored with the sycophants who usually surrounded him. He asked Marcus about his life, his gear, and his dreams. Marcus admitted he produced beats but lacked the network to get them heard. He mentioned Sonic Horizon, the massive music festival happening in the city that weekend. I'd give anything to go, Marcus said. Not just to party, but the industry village. All the label heads, the A&Rs, they hang out in the VIP tents. But a VIP pass is $2,500. I can't even afford the general admission. Julian nodded, looking thoughtful. He didn't offer money. He didn't offer a job. He just said, get back to work, Marcus. The library needs dusting. Marcus left that day feeling confused but relieved he still had a job. 2 days later, Friday, Marcus was at home helping his mom with physical therapy exercises when his phone buzzed. An unknown number. Hello? Check your email, Marcus. It was Julian. Click. Marcus opened his email. There was a forwarded message from the organizers of Sonic Horizon. Attached was a PDF. Marcus dropped the phone. An all-access pass wasn't just a ticket, it was a key to the kingdom. It allowed you backstage, into the artist catering, and into the restricted industry village. A text followed from Julian, meet me at the founder's tent at 4 p.m. Saturday. Don't wear the uniform. Saturday was a sensory overload. The bass from the main stage rattled Marcus's chest from 3 blocks away. He wore his best outfit, a thrifted vintage jacket and clean sneakers. He brought a USB drive with his best 20 tracks in his pocket. It felt heavy, like a loaded weapon. He navigated the security checkpoints. While thousands of kids waited in line for hours, Marcus flashed his wristband. The security guards, huge men who looked like they ate concrete for breakfast, nodded and held the velvet rope open. He walked into the VIP sector. It was a different world. Free champagne bars, white leather furniture on the grass, and people who looked like they stepped out of Instagram. He found the founder's tent. Julian Thorne was there, wearing a linen suit and sunglasses, chatting with a man who looked vaguely familiar. Marcus. Julian waved him over. He introduced Marcus to the man. This is David Geffen, no, I'm kidding. This is Paul. Paul runs distribution for Atlantic. Marcus shook Paul's hand, trying not to crush it. Julian tells me you have magic hands, Paul said, sounding skeptical. Says you woke up his Steinway. I try my best, sir, Marcus said. Don't call him sir, Julian laughed. He's younger than he looks. For the next 2 hours, Marcus was in a masterclass of high-level networking. He realized that deals weren't made in boardrooms, they were made here, over drinks, shouting over the background noise of a Travis Scott set. But Marcus felt small. He saw famous producers walking by. He felt like an imposter. I'm just the cleaner's son, he thought. I'm here because of charity. Julian sensed his hesitation. He pulled Marcus aside. Stop looking at your shoes, Julian said, his voice stern. You think these people are special? Half of them are faking it. You have actual talent. I heard it in my living room. But talent means nothing if you don't have the courage to show it. You have that USB drive? Yes. Good. Keep it ready. The sun went down, and the festival turned into a neon wonderland. The real business happened at the After Dark Lounge, a soundproof tent with a small stage where musicians came to unwind after their sets. It was 11 p.m. The room was thick with smoke and ego. On stage, a session drummer and a bassist were laying down a funk groove. A keyboardist was needed. The guy currently playing was drunk and sloppy. Julian nudged Marcus. Go. What? No. I can't just walk up there. This is the industry, kid. You don't wait to be asked. You take the spot. Go. Julian gave him a shove. Marcus stumbled toward the stage. The bassist looked at him, annoyed. You lost, kid. Marcus didn't answer. He walked up to the drunk keyboardist. Mind if I take a turn? The guy shrugged and stumbled off. Marcus sat at the Nord Stage 3 keyboard. It wasn't a Steinway, but it would do. He didn't start with flash. He listened to the drummer's pocket. He laid down a lush, neo-soul chord bed that instantly locked in with the bass. The bassist's eyebrows shot up. He changed his riff to match Marcus. The energy in the room shifted. People stopped talking. Heads turned. Marcus closed his eyes. He wasn't at the festival anymore. He was back in the mansion, pouring his heart out. He began to solo, fast, intricate jazz licks that cascaded into heavy hip-hop stabs. A crowd gathered. Someone pulled out a phone. Then another. From the side of the stage, a tall man with a shaved head and thick-rimmed glasses watched intently. He wasn't drinking. He was listening. This was Raymond Ray Z. Carter, no relation to Jay, but just as sharp, a senior A&R executive for Universal Music Group. Marcus played for 15 minutes. When they finished the jam, the room erupted. It wasn't polite applause, it was the kind of noise you make when you discover fire. As Marcus stepped off the stage, shaking with adrenaline, Ray Carter blocked his path. "Who are you managed by?" Ray asked, cutting straight to the chase. I'm not. I'm just Marcus. You got tracks? Original production? Yes. Marcus reached into his pocket. The USB drive. Ray took it. "I'm going to listen to this in the car on the way to the hotel. If the production is half as good as you're playing, I'm calling you tomorrow. Put your number in my phone." Marcus typed his number with trembling fingers. Julian Thorne watched from the back of the room, sipping a sparkling water, a small smile on his face. Sunday was agonizing. Marcus stared at his phone. Sarah asked him how the festival was. He couldn't even explain it. It felt like a dream. Monday morning. Marcus was back in his uniform, helping his mom, who was feeling better, at a different house. He was scrubbing a toilet when the phone rang. Unknown number. Los Angeles area code. He stripped off his rubber gloves and answered. "Marcus? It's Ray." I listened to the drive. Silence. "I didn't like it," Ray said. Marcus's heart stopped. "I loved it," Ray corrected. Track 3, Midnight Rain? That's a hit. The sample flip on track 7? Genius. "Look, I don't waste time. I want to fly you out to LA on Thursday. We want to talk about a development deal. Not a singles deal. A full album." Marcus sank to the floor of the bathroom he was cleaning. Tears welled in his eyes. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. I've already emailed the preliminary paperwork to the address on your drive. Get a lawyer. This is where the story needs a dose of reality. Getting signed isn't the end, it's the beginning of the war." Marcus ran to Julian's estate. He didn't go to clean. He went to the front door and rang the bell. Julian answered. "I assume Ray called." "He did. He wants me in LA. He sent a contract." "Don't sign it," Julian said immediately. "What?" "Not until my lawyers look at it," Julian said. "Record labels are banks, Marcus. They lend you money at high interest rates and own your intellectual property forever if you aren't careful. Ray is a good guy, but he works for a machine. You need armor." Julian Thorne, the angel investor, became Marcus's temporary manager. He had his corporate attorneys review the Universal contract. They found 3 clauses that would have cost Marcus millions in future royalties. They redlined them. They negotiated a higher advance. They demanded Marcus keep his publishing rights, the holy grail of the music industry. Because Julian had leverage and money, the label couldn't bully Marcus. They accepted the terms. 6 months later. Sarah was sitting in a new living room. It wasn't a mansion, but it was a beautiful 3-bedroom condo in a safe neighborhood. The mortgage was paid for by the signing advance. She wasn't wearing a cleaning uniform. She was wearing a robe, drinking tea. On the TV, a music video was playing. It was Marcus, sitting at a Steinway piano in the middle of a desert, playing the intro to his debut single, Cleaner's Hands. The song was climbing the Billboard Hot 100. Marcus didn't forget where he came from. He set up a scholarship fund for creative arts at his local community college. And as for Julian Thorne? He and Marcus meet for lunch once a month. Julian still doesn't play the piano much, but he keeps it tuned. Just in case Marcus comes over. This story reminds us that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. Marcus had the gift, but he needed the gatekeeper, Julian, to open the door. How many Marcuses are out there right now, cleaning floors, driving Ubers, or serving coffee, just waiting for someone to listen? If this story inspired you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear it. And before you go, I have a question for you. If you were Julian, and you found someone using your expensive equipment without asking, would you have fired them, or would you have listened?